work now. Like you've taken that idea of the community at UCLA and helping new students, mixed students, really formulate an idea of themselves as bigger than just, oh, I'm on my own as this mixed person, but there's a whole community of folks out there. So you've taken that now to this Alumni Association. So tell me a little bit about the idea, like what inspired you to do this and, who all was involved?
Yeah. So, as I was a student organizer, I noticed that some other groups got support from their respective alumni associations. So at UCLA, there's a Black Alumni Association, an Asian Pacific Islander Association, Latino Alumni Association, etc. And they offer really great resources from mentorship to scholarships, events, networking. And it was just always an idea that we had to start one. And even as just a way for us to continue to stay connected. So that was kind of the idea for it. And it was just a goal that I had for myself when I was graduating. I was like, I want to start this alumni association. It was mostly just to keep folks from Mixed Student Union connected after graduation. And so I sent an email to the diversity programs director in the Alumni Association saying, hey, I have this idea, I really want to get this started. And luckily she was extremely supportive of it and really just helped me get it started.
Nice. So it sounded like that was where more administrative work was needed.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was the work after you graduated? What needed to be done?
So first was just finding people to help me because I couldn't do this alone. And so I got a lot of guidance and support from the Alumni Association staff, which I'm really, really grateful for. One of the biggest challenges was, after graduating, I moved back to the Bay Area, so it was harder for me to do work in Los Angeles. I also had a full-time job, so this was something that I did on a volunteer basis in my free time. And so I got a lot of support from staff, which was very much needed. And one of the first things that we did was I wrote an article for the Alumni magazine, which comes out every month, just explaining the history of Mixed Student Union and the idea for the Mixed Alumni Association. And we put that out, and kind of with it came a call for anyone to join or become a board member. And I was just really amazed at the positive feedback that we got from that. I immediately started receiving emails of people wanting to get involved, wanting to sign up, and got, a good group of people who wanted to take on a role of a board member. And so from there we started meeting and just coming up with ideas for events that we wanted to do, goals that we wanted to set for ourselves, and just taking it slow and letting it naturally develop over time.
Who were the folks who were interested in joining? Was it mostly people who'd been a part of MSU, older generations?
It was a mix. So I had friends, that I knew from MSU wanted to get involved. And there were folks that just came from all over who reached out to me and were just interested. So, it was pretty, there wasn't, I wouldn't say there was like a particular trend or anything. Just folks who were alumni who, I think something that I heard a lot was people saying that, mixed folks saying that they had wanted to get involved with the Alumni Association, but there hadn't been a space for them that they felt that they really were included until they heard about the Mixed Alumni Association, and then it was like, oh, that's where I belong, So that was something that I heard a lot.
And what have you been learning from the people on the board, since it's a much wider network now? It's a different type of community.
Yeah, so something that this experience has really opened my eyes to is the experience of what it means to be a multiracial person later on in life, or what the multiracial experience was, back in the the 90s or the 80s, long before I was a student at UCLA. I think up to the point that I started the Alumni Association, most of my experience talking about mixed race identity had been with college students on a college campus. And so this just broadened my perspective to a much bigger level. And just hearing stories from folks who, attended UCLA long before there was ever a mixed student union, and hearing about their experiences and how, I think today we're very fortunate that students on college campuses can get together and claim a mixed identity and be proud of that. Whereas before it was very much something that was taboo, that people didn't talk about, that people felt that, they had to, hide their identity a lot of times, or, probably got teased for it or outcasted by it a lot more than I think happens today. And so it's just made me very grateful to, be, where I am in this time. Whereas before, I think it was probably a lot harder.
Yeah. So this really diverse group of people who are now on the board, what has been your vision? What's your mission for the association? And what are the kinds of either scholarships or events that you've put on?
I think there are two main goals that I really wanted to come out of this alumni association, and it's still changing, but I think one was simply just including a multiracial community in the alumni association. I just think representation in itself is really important for me. And we've already seen, because of this association, people have been giving back to the Alumni Association and getting involved, whereas I think before they felt that they couldn't, and now they feel that they can. And it's also added to, the ways that I think UCLA is approaching diversity, and I think that just having the Mixed Alumni Association there has added a new layer to that network. And then the second thing that I wanted to achieve from this was just having another source of support for the Mixed Student Union. And I think that's come through the scholarship fund. I think that comes through mentoring and just, offering resources wherever we can. So I'm hoping that with this Alumni Association can help to continue MSU as, being a strong organization. Something else that I noticed as a student organizer was that a lot of times students would be really enthusiastic about MSU their freshman year and their sophomore year, and kind of as they got older, maybe junior year, senior year, they grow a little less interested in it, want to move on to other things. And so I think this was another way for me to say, there's still things that you can get involved with after you graduate or as a senior, as a junior. And I'm hoping that people will see us in the future as, a way to network for a job that they might like, or, get support in other, in other ways. One of our board members is a mom, and I think she adds a really interesting layer of, what does it mean to be multiracial and have a multiracial family, and I think that's a conversation that people will want to talk about when the time comes. We also did a panel at one of the previous conferences about what it's like to be multiracial in a professional environment and applying for jobs and things like that. So there's a lot more to talk about, outside of your college experience, and I'm hoping that the Alumni Association will offer those resources to students.
Yeah, so you're getting to something which is maybe a little bit different, but the way that the multiracial community kind of gets diffuse or really changes in the complexity after college, or even as a young person who's not in college. So I'm thinking, mostly about students who are at four-year institutions, but there's also this real need to mentor young people who are grappling with this, who might not have that given community already. So is there anything that you've taken from your experience in starting this alumni association that might give you some idea of how to start a community of multiracial families or individuals outside of a particular institution.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Because, not everyone has the privilege of going to a four-year university. Something that an organization that is really inspiring to me is MASC, Multiracial Americans of Southern California. I think they're a great model of a really strong organization for multiracial people who have existed for decades. And if I had more time or more energy for it, I would love to see something like that start in Northern California or other regions of the country. And sorry, what was the question again?
If there's a way for individuals to really
Right.
be able to tap into that type of community,
Yeah.
and obviously there's online communities like
Yeah,
Monster
yeah.
Stories, but there's something about
Definitely.
having that in person.
I totally
network.
agree. Yeah, I think, with the Mixed Alumni Association, we're very fortunate to have like an institutional source of support. Like we have staff that help us do this work. And so I feel, if something like that were to get started, I would probably start by looking at different resources that could help, foster that in the beginning until it's, independent enough to be its own thing. But, maybe it is something that starts at a college environment and grows into something more. But yeah, I think online communities are a great way to start as well. And yeah, I think that's something that's super important that needs to be done.
Was there anything else that you wanted to add about the Alumni Association before I move on to the next step in your life?
Yeah, I think one more thing, looking back, that I have found is really interesting about being involved with the Alumni Association. Like I said before, with MSU, a lot of the conversations we have are with young people who, like you said, are coming into terms with their racial identity for the first time. And I've seen that happen with people who are, teenagers or in their early 20s. But something that has been really fascinating for me is seeing people coming to that experience maybe in their 30s or their 40s, where this is the first time that they're having that like awakening, that this is their identity, that this is the first time that they've thought about their identity in that way. And so it's been really interesting for me to know that, not everyone has that multiracial awakening in their early 20s. Sometimes it comes much later in life. And for me, I'm still in my 20s, and it's been really interesting for me to have that conversation with people who are a little bit older than me, who have had professional careers, who have families, and are just coming to terms with that identity for the first time. So for me, it's opened up a question about how do we foster these dialogues in different ways that it's not just about people in college, but folks. How does this conversation look to someone who is a little bit older in life?
I feel the train a coming, I hear the whistle blowing.